Welcome to the Oswego Alumni Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Perkins. Today's guest is not an alum, but a graduate of Canisius College, but she is one of our own. Let's welcome the Dean of School Communication, Media, and the Arts, Dr. Jen Knapp. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dee. I'm happy to be here. Excited to chat with you today.
We are so excited. We're hearing all the details about Hewitt Hall and the updates that are happening. Back in my day, we called it Hewitt Union. And who knows, maybe it'll be called something else because I know you've got a fundraising arm out there. Yeah, we won't talk about money yet. We're going to start off talking about the union. Hewitt Hall is coming online this year. And so you have a very exciting 8 months ahead of you. Tell us where we are and where we've been.
Sure. So there's definitely a lot to say, and I'll start sort of big picture, and then maybe we can get more granular about all the fun stuff that'll be in the building. So it's an $80 million project. And when it's complete, hopefully your listeners will know and remember that we've already renovated Tyler Hall. So all of SCMA will be contained between two buildings, Tyler and Hewitt, which are right across from one another. And it'll be over $124 million invested just in the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts. So for starters, to be able to say that we've got over $124 million invested in our programs makes us incredibly proud, because there's a lot of universities that are closing down arts programs or shrinking, and we are growing. And Hewitt is sort of physical embodiment of all the exciting things that are going on at Oswego, and certainly in the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts. So yeah, opening in 8 months. As we record this today, it's 265 days until the building opens. So I'm calling it the opening of the building the first day of instruction for the fall 2025 semester. So we'll have an official ribbon cutting probably later on in that semester. But right now we're sort of working through a lot of the final touches in terms of the actual construction of the project. So we did it in 2 phases. The first phase was all of the exterior of the building. So if your listeners haven't been back to campus in the last couple of years, it's worth even knowing that the inside isn't done yet, seeing the outside, it's completely transformed. So you'll probably remember we had those weird kind of moats that were around the building. It looked like a castle that you couldn't get in on all the sides. All of that is gone. It's been regraded. There's grass, there's bushes, there's trees. It's really beautiful. And the exterior of the building, we've got some new windows. It got a nice sort of paint job, and it looks spectacular on the outside. So that's been done for over a year now. And then there are 3 floors to the building. The second floor will be completed first. And on the second floor, we're going to have a lot of our offices. So the dean's office, the SCMA dean's office, will be moving into Hewitt, which is really exciting, along with Oswego, and then the faculty for all the departments that'll be living in the building. And so the second floor is primarily offices, and then spaces for the Department of Art and Design. And there's a couple multi-use classrooms. The main floor will be the last to be done, so I'll skip that for now and go to the basement. The basement is where all the production stuff is happening. All the things that need to happen in the dark, that's going to be on the bottom floor of the building. So one of our broadcasting studios, our film screening room, our white box sort of multimedia gallery will be there, along with all of our recording, like audio production and sound that needs to be there for video production. We're going to have a small sound stage for our film program down there, VR suite, which is going to be really awesome. And then the main floor is really kind of the showcase of the building. So I'm happy to hear that everyone's buzzing about Hewitt, because it means I'm doing my job, and our communication team is doing their job, and our alumni team are doing their job. That's the heart of the building. We call that the collaborative core. So we put a skylight into the top of the building to bring in more natural light, and the new windows help with that as well. And so there's a staircase. It's very picturesque. And it's going to be you're going to feel kind of transported once you're inside of the building. It's not going to feel like Oswego. So you can kind of sit on that staircase. It's a place for students and faculty to interact and to kind of lounge. There's going to be a cafe in the building, and the ballroom. So I'm sure you've got many stories of all the wonderful things that happen in the union and happen in the ballroom over the years. So the ballroom is back, and that'll be an official performance space for our music department too, which is going to be huge. And so then there's some other multi-purpose classrooms. a newsroom, a small broadcasting studio, a podcast studio. So we can't wait for you to record an episode in our new podcast studio in the building. Um, and lots of just, it's going to be great energy, and it's almost like a city block, that sort of main part of the building. And it's just going to be constant people filtering in and out, and not just SCMA students and faculty and staff, but it's a building for everybody. And we know the Tyler folks will come over all the time because there's lots of, reasons to and interdisciplinary work that we do within the school and just in the university in general. So it's going to be a great place, literally counting down the days. Can't wait.
So I was there recently for the inauguration of our new president, and I was
Yes.
able, one of the events that I attended was in Tyler, and I hadn't been to Tyler since I graduated, and that space is just amazing. And they talk
Yes.
about in online in the Hewitt information, they talk about it being an arts corridor. So is that, are you guys going to enclose something between the two of them? Because we know the weather.
Originally, that was the plan, to physically connect the two buildings with a corridor, and now it's an arts corridor in spirit, more or less, just having the two buildings adjacent to one another. So we're still kind of leaning into this idea of artistic convergence. That was the whole reason why the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts was created. So we're trying to capture that by saying cool things like, "Hey, come to the arts corridor."
But nobody could afford the digging under the tunnel and creating a whole. Oswego needs a series of tunnels. I'm telling you.
Yes, no doubt. Yeah, especially today. Today it's cold, it's windy, it's a pretty prototypical December day here in Oswego.
So yeah, you have to know that I remember very clearly trying to make my way from Hewitt, to Onondaga where I lived, and just getting blown around. And so my dream was always that they would just create this underground walkway, and it would be so much easier.
Oh, 100%,
But this is what makes us strong. So on YouTube, there's some architectural renderings. There's a really great video that Oswego put out, I think it was just a month ago,
hmm
showing the architectural and what it can, and it's actually really great because you can imagine it very clearly based on those drawings. Have you seen that?
Oh, yes, yeah. And that was interestingly put together by our admissions team. So as a way to recruit new students, our admissions was like, can we have access to these renderings so that we can put something together that we can show prospective students about what to expect with the building? And we're like, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot better than I was peeking again from the president's inauguration. I think it was September. And so what I was doing was peeking in the window with my camera like this. It's really not a good look. Yeah, you
Yeah.
really can't see a lot that way. So I am looking forward to going inside. So a long time ago, I don't know if anyone brought up what used to be in the basement. I can't imagine what it must have been like to take apart the bowling alley. Was that still there?
It was not. It was not there when we demoed everything for the renovation. No, it was long gone, unfortunately. Yeah, I know there's a lot of memories for that building. Yeah.
And the bar across from the radio station.
Yeah, I've heard stories about that one too. Yep.
You went through all of the things that are going to be in the building. Was there ever a time where you thought, oh, we should put the clubs in here as well? I know WTOP and WMYO are both still located in the other building across the way.
Yes. Yeah, in the Murano Campus Center. It probably was a conversation, but it was a quick conversation. It was really never a real consideration because, the campus center is the union, right? And so making sure we've always done a good job of separating to the best we can, the academic side of what we do in SCMA and in comm studies specifically, and what our students do, because it's such a bragging point to say it's student run, it's student leadership and all of that. And I think having that physical sort of distance between us and what the students are doing at NYO and TOP just makes, and the Oswegonian for that matter, makes us stronger. So never a conversation with any real teeth about putting them in the building.
And you talked about a newsroom and a podcast area. By the way, podcasts can be done in a closet, just so you know. Not that I'm in a closet, but what connection to especially the newsroom. When I think of the newsroom, I think student-run organization. How will
Sure.
that connect to classes that are being taught?
Sure, that's a great question. So certainly our broadcast journalists will be in there. So we still, maybe to catch everybody up or remind them of what we have in comm studies specifically. So we've got broadcasting and mass communication, which actually we just got our updates approved, and we've made some changes to the major, and we've kind of updated and modernized the major, which is really exciting. So our broadcast journalists will definitely be in the newsroom space. Our traditional journalism majors will be in that space. We can imagine that, it's going to be, I don't think I've said this yet. So much of that building has been designed so that you can literally, like, you can look in to see what people are doing. It's really built to inspire people creatively, but also to inspire collaboration. So it's very possible that a student who's just kind of passing through, like let's say you're walking from Lanigan to Culkin and it's cold out, so you want to cut through Hewitt. Everybody loves to cut through Hewitt. I miss being able to cut through Hewitt on the cold days. They're going to walk right down that sort of main thoroughfare, that sort of north-south kind of, and they're going to go right past the newsroom, and they're going to look in. They're going to see, it's going to look like a traditional newsroom that you would see, with TVs lining the walls, students working on their laptops and at computers and things like that, writing stories for their classes, doing research for their classes. And it's going to just be a space that I think a lot of students kind of wander in to see what's going on. So its primary function is to serve basically our journalism programs, but I expect that there's going to be a lot of other students that kind of wander in to work on, any kind of research that they might have for classes and things like that.
So it'll act kind of like a lab.
Oh, totally. Yes. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
wonderful. And the same with the podcast area. So I imagine there will be a class that students will be assigned to do a podcast. And so they'll have to sign up like a lab. They'll have to sign up for the podcast studio.
Yes. Yep. That's absolutely how it's going to function. And I expect, it'll be a great place. We've got varying, like yours is a great example, varying podcasts that are connected to the university that could come in and do shows from that location. We'll probably have invited guests, people that, with national sort of followings and things like that, when they're traveling through, invite them to record a session in the studio. So yeah, we're going to do our best to brand it with Oswego green and gold, and see who wants to use it and offer it up to anyone who's interested.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you talked about having updates, now talking to what you do for a living, you talked about updates to the program. And recently I just read an article about how traditional media is starting to lose viewership probably post-election and pre-election. Maybe those numbers were inflated. And so now we're seeing what is a normal amount of watching that's happening. But in the
Mhm.
same article, it talked about more and more people going to social media and podcasts and TikTok to get their information. How does all of that affect the classes that students are taking at Oswego?
Well, I mean, other than keeping us faculty up at night because we're worried about staying current and being relevant and being able to, I guess maybe I'll back up for a second. So, what is important to us and what will never change at SUNY Oswego is our attention to the foundational elements of our disciplines. So, for those who might not be familiar, so the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts originally was formed with four departments: art and design, communication studies, music, and theater. We've since added cinema and screen studies to our academic portfolio. And then we're also Oswego, our performing arts series is connected to SCMA. So the director of Oswego reports to the SCMA dean. And now WRVO, our NPR affiliate, which for many, many years was connected to academic affairs here. They had been connected to the president's office for the last, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years, now have returned to SCMA. So we've got them as part of our portfolio, if you will, as well. And so I know SCMA didn't exist for probably a lot of your listeners. We were born in 2007, so we're a really new entity, newish on campus. But we have always remained committed to theory, history and sort of like critical analysis and all of that. It's one thing for students or for people to be able to push a button to make a thing happen, but we want to make sure they know why they're pushing the button, why, and which button and why, and all of the sort of the fundamentals behind all of that. So curriculum has to change. We have to make sure that we are training our students to meet the needs for the current workforce. And that it is stressful, frankly, because we don't change at the pace that industry changes. We've got a lot of bureaucracy. We've got a lot of layers that we need to get through. I mean, we're talking, it could be 9 months for you to, get things through just SUNY and state ed to get your curriculum changes approved and things like that. It's a really laborious process. But you have to be able to not convince, but I mean, like definitively show to potential students and current students that, we're making you a promise that you are going to be successful in your chosen field once you graduate, that we're going to prepare you for all of that. So it is, to your point, it is really hard to make sure that you are staying current with industry trends and industry needs and knowing that people are moving away from legacy media. I mean, who has a better connection to legacy media than SUNY Oswego? I can't say that we invented it, but we're certainly have been maintaining it for decades. And so that part is a little scary, and knowing that people or students and young people are getting their information from social media, from podcasts and things like that means that we have to make sure that we're teaching them to produce good quality content that still delivers on all of those promises of being well researched, including theory, history, and having a reverence for those things as well. That liberal arts piece of SUNY Oswego, we won't get away from.
That's really important, and that leads me to the next question. A couple of months ago, I was on campus, and our dear friend Mark LaBelle did a class with the staff about AI, and I'm just so interested, and he has an expertise in it. So I got invited. I snuck in. And it was really interesting to be with the faculty talking about AI. And so many of them were like, I don't know what this is. I'm kind of afraid of it. And so I'm just not paying attention to it, which is understandable, very, very understandable. But as time goes on, and not a long time in your line of work, but as time continues to go on, I think you probably have been thinking about the best way to talk to students about using AI. Do you guys have a plan as of yet?
We do. So President Wosu, who you mentioned, who this is his second year as president, but he just had his official inauguration this past September. So one of the things that he declared, I guess it will be the word that I use, at our opening breakfast this fall was that we are going to be an AI campus. And so we were all kind of like muttering to one another, like, well, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. So we're still working that out, but we've got a lot of different work groups on campus, and the members of those groups are from all corners of the university because, to your point, like it touches everyone, from what's going on in the classroom to how students are navigating financial aid issues, making sure that we get them connected to the resources. One of the best things that we took on a couple of years ago was, we call it the chat bot, but it sends text messages to students to be like, hey, we know it's midterms. Are you doing okay? Are you taking care of yourself? What are you worrying about? And they can engage with the chat bot. And when things get to a certain level, then we can connect them with actual humans here on campus to make sure that they're getting their needs fulfilled. So yes, we talk about AI in just about every meeting. It came up, we had an SCMA chairs meeting this morning, and it was interesting to hear two different faculty members, one who's telling the students to embrace it, and, just tell me how you're using it, how you're crafting your prompts and that sort of thing. And another faculty member like, I can't let them use ChatGPT to write a paper or things like that. So there's a lot of internal, I think, struggles and a lot of dissonance in a lot of faculty because it is so new, and we don't even really know what it means to use it responsibly yet, or how to use it effectively. So we are talking about it almost daily, I would say.
So this is days ago, and not a gotcha moment, but I remember just days ago I saw a media organization suing ChatGPT for not accrediting the
Oh,
information that it got clearly from this organization. And I went, here we go. This is
yeah.
really going to be interesting, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And that's, that's our sweet spot as academics. Like we can cite to the, all the live long day. We've been trained to do that sort of thing. But when you put a new tool in front of, faculty and students, and even the faculty, they don't know how to use it, there's just a lot of trial and error. And there's a lot of, okay, well, what can we sort of ethically consider at this point, and how can we present that to our students? And I think where we've landed is just to have open conversations with students. Like, let's not put our head in the sand. We know these things exist, and we have a pretty good feeling that you're using it. So let's talk about what that means to do it ethically, responsibly, how to cite, the different, whether it's a prompt or something like that, or, you always got to cite your sources. So we're trying to just lean into what we know, those foundational elements that I just mentioned, and then how does that interact with this new tool that we're all freaked out about.
Where I kind of lose my idea of where we're going with all this is creative writing. So, someone says, teacher says, write me a story about being lost in the snow. And she gets 5 stories that are all the same, lost in the snow. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know what to do with that and how to change that and how to manipulate that. So I think the time that we're living in is definitely making you struggle more and come up with these out of the air ideas.
Right. Yeah. I think the one thing that gives us some solace, especially in the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts, is creativity can't be manufactured by a robot, by AI. And that's what we need to sort of remember, and that's what we need to tell our students, and that's what we need to embrace, that is not something that is just going to happen. Like, you need people to be in a room together to collaborate and to come up with those creative ideas and innovate. I don't think AI is going to be able to do that for us.
So, speaking of collaboration, I know that you've been talking to the computer science department about better ways that you can work together to almost build a new kind of education for students. How's that going?
Um, so actually, I'm not sure I know what you're talking
Oh,
about computer
so
science
yeah, so
specifically.
students who come to the school and maybe want to be working games in gaming,
Oh, sure, sure, sure. Yep,
you know,
yeah.
and then, but they also need all of the beauty associated with the games. And how do you make that work together?
Yes. So we've been wrestling with that for a couple of years now. So, a lot of it comes under the umbrella of esports, but it could also be called video game studies and things like that. And yeah, that is something that we see a lot of students come to Oswego, and they might start in computer science because they think that they want to be a video game creator or something like that. Maybe not knowing or really fully recognizing, because, we're talking about 18-year-old, kids at this point, that maybe where you really should be is in the art department. So we do have, and that's one of the features in Hewitt, we'll have an animation lab that'll be shared with our art and design department, as well as our cinema and screen studies department as well, to kind of produce some of that interdisciplinary stuff. So yeah, we are trying to, I guess, promote ourselves as a place for students who have multiple interests and multiple talents. So you could potentially double major in computer science as well as something like interaction design in the Department of Art and Design, and then graduate with having this sort of dual skill set of, yeah, maybe you can do the coding, maybe you can do the sort of behind the stuff, but you also have that creative element, that artistic element that we know is so important, and oftentimes is what drives, the creative writing, the narrative of a video game is really what drives people to those types of games and engage with them for long periods of time. So yeah, we definitely encourage our students to be, multidimensional, and we and what we do know, we have data to back up the fact that SCMA students tend to double major or minor at a higher rate than other students in like School of Business, School of Ed, and liberal arts and sciences, because they just tend to be creative people and innovative people. And they're like, well, I love this and I want to study this and I also want to study that. So we embrace that, knowing that it's just going to make them more marketable and more employable when they leave. So yeah, we're still building out, what we hope to be maybe like a video game studies major that will have potentially different tracks. You can have maybe the more computer science, the programming element of it all. You could have potentially the more creative, whether it's creative writing and narrative piece of it, the artistic piece of it with the graphic design, interaction design, motion graphics, those types of things. As well as even if you go to esports specifically, I don't know how familiar you are with esports, but I mean, it's when they have esports events and tournaments, it's a sports tournament. So you've got play-by-play announcers, you've got color announcers, they call it shoutcasting. We know we're pretty good at broadcasting. We can train students how to do all of those things. So we're hoping within the next couple of years to have an actual academic major that builds out all the stuff that you mentioned.
It's funny, everything that's old is new again in that one particular area because I graduated with a broadcasting degree. I mean, communications broadcasting degree,
Yeah.
and spent so much time in radio. And those jobs are shrinking. The amount of people who are on the air talking about the music that they love. That job market's definitely getting smaller.
Sure.
But the podcasting world is gigantic. And so
Yes.
all of the skills that I learned as a broadcaster, they're all promotable across this wide range of podcasting.
Absolutely. I mean, we now are getting students that are like they have an established podcast or they have like an established TikTok following where they've got tens of thousands of followers and we're like, "Oh my gosh, like again, the anxiety of faculty be like, what am I teaching you? You're going to have to teach me on how to produce all this really great content." So, that part has been really interesting to see these students that are like already starting to build their media empire, just because they've been living in it and it comes so naturally to them, that it's really fascinating to see the work that these students are already producing.
So President Wusu is really tackling the problem or the opportunity of getting more people involved at SUNY Oswego, not just your traditional four-year grads. And
Mhm.
I know that you guys have a campus here in Syracuse. I was wondering, what are the things that you've been thinking about to try and bring more people into the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been talking a lot about how to better utilize our Syracuse campus and really being able to sort of definitively brand that space in particular as being the place to go for X, Y, or Z. I will say we're still kind of working out X, Y, or Z. Right now, our most successful programs in Syracuse tend to be graduate programs and programs for students who, are what we would consider non-traditional. So they're working, they might have families, so they're kind of taking maybe one or two courses a semester, either online or at the Syracuse campus. So we do have some programs there that are doing really well, but graduate studies seems to be going really well. And a lot of that is coming out of the School of Education. We do have, to your point about Vision 4040 and President Wosu's very ambitious goal of growing, so many universities are shrinking. And he came here and from day one, he was like, no, we're not going to hunker down and weather this storm. We're going to grow and we are going to serve our community. We are very mission driven at Oswego. And that includes being able to offer public institution opportunities in the city of Syracuse. Other than OCC, we're talking about a lot of private institutions in that area that have a really, a high price point. And so being able to offer fantastic programs that are affordable in Syracuse is really kind of driving our retooling of what that space is going to look like. Right now, we in the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts, we offer a micro credential at Syracuse that is in digital communication and media design. And so we've got a small Mac lab on the third floor of that building where our students are learning a lot of sort of like web design, some social media strategy, and a little bit of graphic design. And it's kind of geared for people who maybe need to upskill a little bit in those areas in their current jobs.
So all of my friends from the comm department would poke at me if I didn't ask you about the comm dinner. Now I know the dinner is usually every 3 years. That would make it 2026. But
Right.
knowing that the Hewitt is going to be opening this year, is there talk about moving the comm dinner?
Well, as you know, you alumni, you have a lot of what's the word? Persuasive ability, I suppose. And you are not the first person to ask me whether or not we're going to move the comm dinner up. So I'll say it's possible. It is something that we're talking about. There seems to be interest. It's honestly, it makes a lot of sense to be able to celebrate with the people who helped make this renovation possible. And, I know we're having a fun, casual conversation here, but one of the things that is important to me to make sure that I always say when I have opportunities like this is that you, and I think I said this to you, we know when we saw each other over the summer, you are the reason why we have been able to invest $124 million in the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts. It is the alumni that have made something like this happen. Your success in your careers, your giving back to the university, your connection to the university makes all of these things possible. And so I'm incredibly grateful to all the SCMA alumni that have sort of built up our credibility, frankly. Even being able to form our own school is because of the credibility of the students and the alumni that have come through these programs. And so it's incredibly exciting and all of that. And I think it would be potentially a missed opportunity to not also celebrate with you in that moment, knowing how important your involvement has been, to make all of this stuff happen. So I would say that there's at least a 50-50 shot that we move the comm dinner up to fall 2025.
Yay, yay, let's do it. All right, so now to tie in all those alum who are excited about the new Hewitt, is there a naming opportunity? Are there fundraising opportunities, big and small? I know I said this to you in person too. I'm very excited about, not everybody can afford I'm guessing $10 million naming opportunity, but I'm guessing there are smaller opportunities as well.
Yeah, there are all sorts of opportunities, and it's true for Hewitt and for Tyler. So I'll talk a little bit. We've got maybe the best way to put it is sort of phases of ways that people can engage philanthropically with Hewitt, with Tyler, and with the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts. So we're in the process. It's not publicly launched, but we've been working for a while now on an endowed campaign for the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts that we call Laker Legends. And Laker Legends is the whole point of it is to be able to support the technology and the equipment needs for the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts in perpetuity. So as you know, and as people can imagine, our programs are incredibly expensive to run and to maintain. Just the equipment alone, I mean, is insane, in terms of the millions of dollars of equipment that we have between our two buildings. And so when we publicly launch this campaign, which could also coincide with a ribbon cutting next year, the idea will be that, that donations and in-kind donations and things like that as part of Laker Legends will help support the school in perpetuity. So that is something that we are looking to launch in the future. Right now, though, we do have some current needs that have kind of gone unmet. As you can imagine, when we started planning for Hewitt 6, 7, 8 years ago, the budget was set at that point, and this money just doesn't go as far. I don't know if you've heard or
Oh,
experienced. It's not
construction
going as
money.
far as
Absolutely. Definitely doesn't go as far.
yeah, it doesn't go as far. So there are things, we had to prioritize, and our academic spaces will be perfectly outfitted and they will be fabulous and everything's going to be awesome when we open next fall. But that just means like some of the things that really are going to make this building extravagant and, allow us to brag in a way that says things, when we can say things like nobody but Oswego has this or can do that. Those are some of the things that we're still working to hope, and hopefully maybe raise some money to get equipment like that so that we can make sure that our students are the best trained, the hardest working, because they had access to all of the equipment of the future. We really want to future-proof our programs here at Oswego, and that does require some money. So we do have some current use needs. Today happens to be, I know this isn't going to come out for a month or so, but today happens to be Giving Tuesday. And so as an alum, I would hope that you got an email from me today as the dean for SCMA saying, hey, if you got a little extra cash, we'll take it. So we do have a Hewitt equipment fund that people can contribute to today. And, depending on the amount that you give, I mean, there are naming opportunities. So we like to phrase it in terms of, that's not necessarily our end goal. It is to be able to name a space, but we are certainly happy to recognize you and your gift by putting your name on a space. And that includes, anything from an office, a suite, to something like the Hewitt Ballroom, which will probably be the biggest ticket item, if you will, in that space, just based on square footage and all of that. And it's a bona fide music performance hall. So you would have to give a nice gift in order to have that named, either in your honor or, maybe someone, Dee, will want to name it for you. So maybe we'll have the Dee Perkins Ballroom in Hewitt or the Dee Perkins Performance Hall. We'll let you choose the name.
Maybe the podcast closet.
Also an option for sure. Yes.
I was at Green Bay Stadium 2 years ago, and I have to tell you, you should take a visit there just to see the naming opportunities are literally everywhere. You just like walk all of the bricks leading up to chairs, doors. It's amazing. So I do some other charitable work, and that alone opened my eyes to when people say, "Oh, I'd like to have something." Just
Mhm.
think of something.
Yes, yes. So we are definitely thinking about, how we can do that for Hewitt and in Hewitt. I will say that already exists in Tyler Hall. So you might remember many years ago we did a Waterman seat campaign. And so I think it was pretty affordable, $500 or something like that as a donation to the university and specifically to Waterman, if you will. So it helps support all the technology in that beautiful space. And then you get your plaque on one of the armrests of your chair. So people very often when they come back for events, they like to look and find the chair that's got their name on it to commemorate their gift. And what was really beautiful about that, it was a very successful campaign. So many people did it in honor of their professors, or they did it in honor of their classmates and just the people that were so meaningful to them while they were at Oswego. And that part was really, really heartwarming. So I expect that when we figure out how we want to do something like that for Hewitt, that there's going to be a lot of, hey, Doc O'Donnell, he's going to need his own wall probably in that building for all the students that he mentored over the years.
So we're coming up on the January winter semester. No, did we call that spring semester? The next semester?
Well, we've got two different things. So we do have a winter session, which is sort of the intercession between fall and spring. But yeah, we call it spring semester.
Even though
Yeah.
it starts end of January, right?
Correct. Yes.
When I was in Oswego, I always had the feeling that first year you're coming into snow season, that's almost like a make it or break it for students. Is that your experience?
Well, we don't get as much snow as we used to. Even so, I've been here, I think, how long have I been here? 16 years, I think. And even in the time that I've been here, we don't get as much snow as we used to, but the wind will still, I think you mentioned this earlier, knock you right on your butt. That has not changed. So I was walking across campus today. I went to the campus center, I grabbed some lunch, I walked back to Culkin, that's where my office is, and I saw a student who's just not even wearing a coat. I'm like, I don't even know how you're existing right now. It's wild. So,
Yeah, students wearing
but
shorts. I saw that when
yeah.
I was on campus. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I walked in behind a guy today, an adult human wearing shorts today. I'm like, these people around here are crazy. But yes, I think it is a bit of a bragging point to say I survived my first winter at SUNY Oswego. Yeah, for sure.
So two last questions. What is next? Like, what is the main thing on your mind that you're working on next?
It really is Hewitt. So I spend probably 60% of my day thinking about Hewitt, talking about Hewitt, and really coming at it from a publicity standpoint. I mean, making sure that people know, we have this beautiful space that is going to be coming online in less than a year. And it mixes up programs that don't normally get to mix up and play with one another. You've got art students next to film students who are next to journalism students, and they're all kind of mixing around. And it's going to be really exciting. So I spend a lot of time talking about that, and doing my best to try to fundraise for our programs and for the university. And then, I think a very close second to all of that is to one of the points that we were talking about not too long ago is making sure that we are up to date with our curriculum, that we really are preparing our students to enter into their chosen field. And so that's, a lot of my time is sort of those types of big picture things.
How do you do number two? Do you attend classes? Do you read the textbooks? How do you stay on top of that?
That's a great question, and maybe even a great way for me to plug that we have an advisory board. The School of Communication, Media, and the Arts has an advisory board that is primarily almost exclusively made up of SUNY Oswego alumni. And so the beauty of that is they can kind of report back to us. This is what we're seeing in the industry. These are the trends. These are the things that you need to be preparing for so that you are future proofing your majors. And so we get a lot of information from our partners, and our faculty, they're academics, they're trained academics. So when they're going out at their professional conferences and they're engaging in professional development, they bring those ideas back. So it's not something that I individually have to oversee, but it's more of a coordination and making sure that there isn't any stagnation with the types of programs that we're offering. But I have to rely on our faculty experts to come back to me and be like, wow, we are way overdue for a curriculum overhaul, or, we want to start a new minor. We think that this is really going to help prepare our students for the future. And so we do talk a lot about those types of things. But frankly, it's not, or I should say, thankfully, not all on my shoulders. It's just my job to manage it and to kind of move the project along. So I'm more or less a project coordinator.
I can't imagine what it would be if you had to go to every single class.
Oh gosh, no. But when I do attend classes, it's the best part of my day. I mean, to be able to see faculty in their element, doing the thing that they love and inspiring students, and then when you can see that enthusiasm transfer from faculty to students, there's nothing better. That's why I got into teaching. I had a really fantastic mentor at Canisius, and I wanted to be like her when I grew up. And so I mimicked her. I did all the things that she did so that I could be like her. And it's because she inspired me, and she taught me the value of what I was learning in the classroom and how to apply that outside the classroom to have a better life, to have better relationships, and to have a career path. So anytime I get to witness that between faculty and students, please, I can do anything the rest of the day.
So that leads me perfectly to my last question. This is always the last question on the podcast, but for alum, it kind of makes more sense, but I'm still going to throw it at you anyhow. If you were getting the Oscar today, who would you like to thank for your success? And this could be anybody in the Oswego area that you're in, or it could be somebody from Canisius if you want to give that wonderful woman a shout out.
I do. So I will always give Dr. Melissa Wanzer her flowers. She's the reason why I do what I do. But can I do this can I pretend that I'm Hewitt Hall? Can I accept this honor
Sure,
on
you can do
behalf of
whatever you
Hewitt
want.
Hall? So I already mentioned that, the alumni are really one of the biggest reasons why SCMA has had this huge investment in our programs. And so I am really, really grateful for all the alumni from all of our programs that have come through and that continue, like you do, to give back to the university with your time, your talent, and your treasure. I would say I definitely want to give a huge shout out to Fritz Misser. So I know many of your listeners know Fritz. He was the founding dean for the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts. And it was a lot of his vision that set everything in motion. And that includes the renovations to Tyler Hall as well as Hewitt Hall. His fingerprints are on a lot of what we're doing, even though he's been retired since 2015 from the dean's office.
Nobody
Same with
notices. Nobody
yeah.
notices. We love you, Fritz. We love you. We love you. No, and it's not that we don't know that you're dean. It's just that he, lives in our imagination and in our minds. He's always there in Lanigan.
Yes, I believe that to be true because I have those, I had that same experience. Not at Oswego, but like when I think about my time at Oswego or at Canisius, it's Dr. Wanzer's classes and all of those things. And so, I would thank Fritz. I would thank Julie Pretzett, our second dean. So the dean that preceded me, she saw the Tyler renovations through and she set all the Hewitt renovations into motion as well. So the two of them really deserve almost all the credit to help us. They were the ones that helped SCMA get to this point. It's my job now to sort of lead us into a new chapter. And that's sort of how we're billing, and Hewitt speaks to that well. It is the next chapter for that building. And it's now the next chapter for the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts. And we know that this building is going to elevate our profile. But what I don't ever worry about is I know that we are solid academically. I have no concerns that we are absolutely preparing our students to be successful once they graduate. And so I will quote some of my friends from the Throwing Bagels podcast, and Michael Rickey, who's the current chair of communication studies. He was on their podcast not too long ago, and talking about Hewitt as the building that we deserve. And so I want to thank anyone who has come through, whether it was comm studies, art and design, music theater, cinema and screen studies. You really are the reason why we're finally getting the building that we deserve.
That's wonderful. I love it.
There's my speech.
I am so jealous about the people who get to experience that because, to have cinema connected to broadcasting, connected to communications, I just think it's so wonderful for all the students to be able to experience that.
Yeah, when you think, our students now are, as we're recruiting students, they're filling out their college applications and they're writing things on there like, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a content creator. And I think a lot of people are like, well, what the hell does that mean? And for me, I'm like, you're a comm major. That's exactly what we do in the Department of Communication Studies, and then you just pick your channel. How do you want your message to get out there, but we can teach you how to create those really impactful messages, whether they're, video, written, whatever you want to say, a podcast. That's still our bread and butter and still something that we do really well here.
Yeah, I remember when we first started talking podcasts and just the conversation about it. And they said, hey, do you think you could do it in video too? And I'm like, so is that still a podcast? I don't even know. But we've been doing the video version on YouTube and the audio version and just doing them simultaneously. So, that is what we do. And so you then have to know that you're communicating by your voice and also as a visual.
Sure. Absolutely.
And the kids these days, they know how to do it. Come on.
They do.
Well, Jen, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time and filling us in all on Hewitt. Oh my God, I have to say one more. So naming opportunity, is there a chance that one day it won't be called Hewitt?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is always on the table.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And if people want to put their name on the building, they can send me a message. I'd be very happy to talk to them about that. Yeah.
All right. So if you want to put your name on Hewitt, you can reach out to Dr. Knapp at jennifer.knapp@oswego.edu. And if you'd like to reach out to us and you have an idea about who would be a great guest on our podcast, we're always open to new ideas. You can reach us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and email us the old school way at alumni@oswego.edu. We are always looking for ideas from our over 95,000 alumni. I can't wait till I get to say 100,000.
That's going to be a great day.
I'm Dee Perkins, and we'll see you next time on the Oswego Alumni Podcast.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Oswego Alumni Podcast. Please note that the views and opinions shared by our guests are their own and may not reflect those of the Oswego Alumni Association, SUNY Oswego, or its representatives. For guest suggestion, email us at alumni@oswego.edu.